we'll get started and he can join, and so that'll work. The time is 6:32. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin with the reading of the land acknowledgement by Ms. Kay.
Akron Central School District acknowledges that we gather on the traditional lands of the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. We honor the contributions of the indigenous peoples past, present, and future with gratitude for the land as we continue to work together with the spirit of respect and understanding.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask everybody to rise and join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, our next item on our agenda is that the recommended action is to go into executive session with a motion to go into executive session for discussion on negotiations and employment history of a particular person.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Pidgeotto.
Second.
Second, Ms. Kafka. Yeah.
Do you see it on yours? I'm waiting. Just this one.
Yep. It was frozen.
Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes and 1 abstain.
4 ayes, 1 abstained. Therefore, the motion passes. We are in executive session as of 6:34. We will conclude our executive session no later than 7 p.m. to continue the balance of our regular business meeting. And we are out of executive session at 7:02. Moving on to our next agenda item, item 3. It is our mission statement and our mission movers. Ms. Kirsten.
Okay, I think we have a few certificates over here. I think we have a few Kowalskis here today. Come on up. Thank you. So we have a few certificates for you, but we have a very important job for you to do for us, if you wouldn't mind. And we can help you if you'd like. But we were hoping that you would read our mission statement for us. Would you be willing to do that? All right, come on up.
They brought copies.
Oh, very nice. Oh, look at this. I should have known you would be prepared. All right.
The mission of the Akron Central School District, a learning-centered community dedicated to the dreams of our students, is to ensure that each student realizes his or her unique human potential and contributes positively to society through a system characterized by
valuing the unique gifts and dreams of each person, developing all dimensions of each human being, advancing the knowledge, skills, and wisdom of each student, nurturing and respecting the dignity of each human being, cooperatively working to continuously create new realities.
Excellent job.
We'll talk in 1 second. Good evening. Tonight we have Hannah, Jenna, and Kayla Kowalski. They did a great job with a maple syrup farm, and they'll tell you about their production. They were actually honored by Erie County Legislature Christopher Green, but truly a great job. I know Mr. Kowalski had a meeting and Mom had a concert, so I believe Jenna took Legislator Green on a tour all by herself, and he was very impressed. But the girls will tell you a little bit about their production, and I know that a ton of time and energy goes into producing maple syrup. So we're very, very proud of these 3 young ladies. Want to tell them about your experience?
We invited people to Maple Weekend so they could see how maple syrup is made. We took them on tours to see maple trees and showed them how we chop trees.
we showed them how the sugar shack works and let them sample pancakes with our syrup.
Thank you. Now for some certificates. First we have Hannah. This is for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Jenna, congratulations.
Thank you.
And then Kayla, congratulations. And I believe the board may want a picture.
Yep, we're going to take a picture, and before we do, I just wanted to add, just like you work together as a team to read the mission statement, that is what I witnessed firsthand during Maple Weekend, how your entire family works together to share something very special with our community. So I just wanted to say thank you, not only for that, but also I really enjoyed watching some presentations in your classrooms as well. Particularly the maple syrup dad jokes were my favorite.
Get a copy of those, that'd be great.
But if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to take a picture, and Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski, if you wouldn't mind joining us in the picture as well, because I know it really is a family affair. So we're just going to step over here with our board.
All right, I got 2 phones, so don't go anywhere. All right, say maple syrup.
Thank you. That is excellent. Thank you, ladies. I know that the town of Newstead is a right-to-farm community, as are our surrounding districts. So it's always encouraging and great to see not only family businesses and farming in general. So it's great to see that you're able to carry on a tradition and teach everybody else a little bit more about what you're passionate about, and that's great to see. So we thank you, ladies. Moving on to presentations. Agenda item 4, I'd like to invite Mr. Kowalski up for his presentation in regards to the 2025-2026 budget.
Good evening. There. I think that's the right height now. I was hoping I'd stand here tonight and also say we had a state budget, but not yet. But we'll get to that in a moment. Tonight concludes this, or I shouldn't say concludes, because we have several other opportunities coming up. But tonight I'll present the full budget summary for the 25-26 school year for our district. Start off with just a couple slides of where we've been, what we've done so far, what goes into the budget development process, which is it takes a good majority of the year and takes a ton of effort and work and support from our whole administrative team that's here tonight. Starting in November and December, the administrative team within buildings or within departments begin having meetings, soliciting input on what needs may be for the upcoming school year. The first time that we at a board meeting as a team discuss the budget, or discuss the budget rather, was just before the holidays on December 18th, going over the political landscape and what we thought may be coming our way in January from Albany. Beginning in January, or during January rather, Mrs. Kirsten, myself, met with each individual administrator and representing their departments or buildings to gather their requests and input from their respective teams on what our budget should include. I presented a summary of that, a summary of those meetings, as well as of the executive budget proposal from Governor Hochul, as well as discussed the tax cap at the end of January. In February, our non-instructional departments presented their budgets. Early in March, our instructional departments, our buildings, and at the end of March, our special education budget was presented. And here we are tonight on April 22nd. The information that is up here now about state aid is information that I've presented several times, and as I mentioned, we do not have a firm state budget yet, but based on the governor's proposal and as well as the alternates that have been discussed, we believe conservatively that our foundation aid should end up around $11.7 million or so, which is about a 2% increase, exactly a 2% increase rather from last year. The big takeaway that I've mentioned many times is that due to our enrollment, Akron is now designated as a safe, harmless district, which would mean that based on the aid formula, our state aid would actually, our foundation aid rather, would actually decrease. And currently that has not been held true. The safe harmless provision has given districts a minimum of 2%. There is discussion that may end up a little bit higher, but right now 2% is what has been promised, or at least proposed. Just a note for anybody going back, as I present other numbers, if as you're looking at some of the breakdown, you notice that the building aid, our building aid has dropped significantly. That was planned. Building aid is received by school districts to pay for debt associated with projects, capital projects that were done in the past. And we had a capital project drop off. The debt was paid off. The project that is just starting will not have debt that we'll be paying on yet. So again, this was planned. The building aid dropped off, but so did the amount of debt that we'll be paying as a result. I mentioned the state budget. It was due on April 1st, and about an hour or so ago, I watched a news update that they were talking about a likely 7th extender bill being voted on in a day or two, and that even if a budget was agreed upon this week, that it would likely take up to 9 extension bills to get things to where they needed to be official. So again, there's various issues, mainly political in nature at this point, under negotiation between the governor, the Senate, and the Assembly. But until those are settled, we won't have our final numbers yet. But as I've mentioned, projections have been made conservatively to the best of the knowledge that we have and that every school district in New York has. Everybody's facing the same scenario. So highlights of this budget is the preservation of our existing programs, inclusion of some one-time expenditures that have previously been outlined, but in summary, at a high level, classroom furniture, some continuing replacement of musical instruments, some athletic equipment, as well as several facilities-related items. Inclusion of several new student clubs, and also provisions made for increased costs of our non-instructional health care. The Akron Faculty Association collective bargaining agreement that's currently being negotiated, as well as increased costs for our special education programming. Something that I want to take a moment to make sure I touch on is the inclusion of $100,000 for what New York State refers to as a capital outlay project. And earlier in the budget cycle, I believe 2 meetings ago, I brought up one of the items that was in the negotiations, still has not been settled, is to potentially increase the limit on a capital outlay project. The capital outlay project allows a school district to fund a relatively small amount of work, much in the same way that you would do a capital project of a larger scale like we have now. An architect's involved, there's approval processes, again, very similar. What's different is the value and the time frame. Everything has to be completed within the fiscal year. And the positive to that, besides being able to address concerns that may otherwise have to kind of pile up or take a number in line for a project, is that we receive aid, a district will receive aid back, and for Akron, that would be approximately 83%. Potentially the next fiscal year, based on timely submission and approval of everything. So the thought is to include this $100,000 to essentially seed that process, and a district could, in theory, do this annually, and that aid that would come back would fund 83% approximately of the project the next year. So again, it's quite a return on the dollar to do something of this nature. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there was talk, still has been talk about raising this to, in today's day and age, $250,000 to make it potentially more meaningful work. But that $100,000 limit is where things stand, and we have included that in this budget. Tax levy limit is information, again, we've presented, and that had to be set by March 1st. And after discussion, the board did set the tax levy for next year, this coming year, at 2%. It could have gone higher than that, but we've set it at 2%, which is the same rate that it was set at last year's. And in terms of dollars, that's just under $10.7 million in $10.6 million in local taxes, it's an increase of just over $200,000. Historically, this is a chart that I've just updated that shown before. It's shown that the limit, the actual increase to the tax levy has been anywhere between 0 and 2% in this decade. So we're within that. And one of the other things I've mentioned before as well is with some of the uncertainty with the save harmless provision and whether that continues, having a base that should revenues drop off in the future that our district can rely on to maintain our programs is important. And again, that's one of the reasons we revisit this every year. Should that situation change, that levy can be adjusted. As you can see in some years past, it has been lower. Our state aid figures that everybody here or at home will be seeing coming to a mailbox near you soon. There's a breakdown of the different categories of aid that we receive. And again, I've kind of highlighted the overall highlights here. And again, before anyone gets too worried, that drop off in building aid again was anticipated. It's paying off our debt service that has been retired. As far as, whoop, I think I skipped a slide there. Mike, can you go back, please? One. No, go ahead. Oop. There we go. Oop. Seem to be missing some of the revenue there. I will adjust that for the website. But the revenue that we've already shown is that our foundation aid, actually the state aid was there, is our revenue. Our other revenue, I think I'd look at this enough times and realize what I'm looking at, but sometimes sorry about that. So again, the aid is revenue. So the other revenues that we receive are listed here. Some of that includes our excuse me, Native American aid, our sales tax for Erie County, for our Erie County towns, federal impact aid, and then there's also we have use of reserves as well as some of our fund balance as well. Overall, again, the property taxes, I've shown that already. The revenue generated there, a 2% increase on the levy is a little over $200,000. You will see that the revenue, as well as the budget itself, has dropped off. It would seem, if you're not looking at this all the time, that revenue and expenditures have really dropped off by $4.8 million. I want to point out that that is because there was a transfer to our capital fund last year that funded the first phase of our capital project. So it was kind of a statistical or accounting anomaly, if you will. That drop off in revenue really is just because we're not pulling money out of that capital fund to fund the project. A breakdown of the revenues, as promised, all of them, including the aid and the property taxes. And then our expenditures, again, coming soon to a mailbox near you. One of the things that we are required to, all districts are required to do, is present a budget in a 3-part format, showing approximately what percentage is spent on the overall instructional program, which is will be proposed to be just under 72% next year. The capital component, which is about just under 17%, and our administrative component just over 11%. And a breakdown of those, again, by dollars. You can once again see that the bulk of our budget is devoted to our instructional program, as you would expect any school district. Just as a comparison, again, our expenditures, I pulled that back in along with the revenue. Those numbers match for a budget of just over $39 million. Shown where the tax levy comes from at the 2%. And that drop off again on expenditures is again mainly a product of the fact that we're not pulling from our capital reserve next year. And that is the summary of this year's proposed budget. Any questions?
Thank you for putting that together, Paul.
I know that was a tremendous amount of work, and you've gone over those numbers many, many times, so I appreciate all the time and effort that you put into that presentation, but the process in general. So thank you, and again, thank you to our administrative team as well for working collaboratively and putting together a budget that supports the goals and vision of our district. So thank you.
And likewise, the only thing I'll add to it is just from the standpoint that, whether it be people in attendance or watching online, we will have a budget presentation coming up in the upcoming weeks that will be open to the public for, again, review questions. And between now and then, likewise, if anybody has questions, to please reach out to the district and we can help clarify that.
May
The
13th.
meeting is on May 13th.
Yep.
As well as we're bringing the budget to you, community. We're going to visit the town meeting on the 28th of April, the village on the 5th. We're visiting PTA on the 7th of May, Rotary on the 8th, the Senior Center on May 13th, Chamber of Commerce on the 14th. And if there are any other community organizations that would like us to bring our presentation to you, please contact me and we'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon my tardiness.
No worries.
We're worried where you were at, Phil. We were worried.
Moving on to the next agenda item, item 5, hearing of individuals and delegations. We do not have any pink cards for presenters or speakers. Therefore, moving on to agenda item 6, building department updates, administrative team.
All right, who'd like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. At the high school, 39 days left of school. It's amazing how fast it's gone by for us until exams start. But we're really winding down with our schedule. We're in the meat of our schedule for next year, getting all our student requests in and really kind of formalizing how the master schedule is going to look next year. We have some field tests going on from the state being administered. Our AP exams in the next few weeks will be administered here on campus. And just getting ready for our Regents exams and graduation. On a great note, scholastically in terms of athletics, we have one student who was honored on the winter scholastic athlete. Aubrey-Ann Balsley is our winner this year for our scholastic athlete for basketball. It's her second time this year. She made it for volleyball as well, so it's a tremendous honor for her. And she is also our valedictorian. So just an outstanding student athlete all around and a great person. So, and then I think
That's it. Yeah, I mean, we did we had our wellness day afternoon, the Friday before break that was really successful. We had over 20 different stations and activities that the kids could go to and get ready for the break. So that was very well received and they liked it. So, thanks.
Thank you.
go Tigers.
Good evening. On behalf of Akron Middle School, a couple celebrations for our 8th grade students. On June 6th, we're going to have an 8th grade semi-formal dance from 7 to 9 p.m. In our big middle school gym. Then on June 18th, we're going to have a 8th grade Moving Up Awards / breakfast. We mailed out letters yesterday. We're going to invite parents and family members to come eat breakfast with us in the morning from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. It'll be a Moving Up Awards, and we'll also have awards such as Merit Roll, Honor Roll, High Honor Roll, Presidential Achievement Awards. ever since I've been doing this for 15 years, we've always done the awards in the evening, and the difficult part is getting teachers to do it. So doing it in the morning, the benefit is each 8th grade teacher will be there to give out, a couple awards to kids, which I think is very valuable. They work with the kids every day. They know what the kids are doing. They know the work ethic, so that will allow us to have the 8th grade teachers included. Thursday and Friday of this week, we kick off the New York State ELA assessments in CBT. I hope everything goes well. When the elementary tested, unfortunately, the state had a glitch again in their CBT system, which caused a lot of systems to crash in districts across the state. So I'm hoping they have that fixed. May 7th and 8th, we'll conduct our math state assessments. And then May 12th at 9:30 a.m., some of our students will attend the Battle of the Books at Orchard Park Middle School. Any questions?
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Caprio, for bringing back that moving up ceremony. I know that that's something that our parents have expressed are very important to them, and I appreciate that evenings in June can be extremely busy with a variety of different events and activities happening, and that's hard to coordinate. I just appreciate the work of you and your team to bring that opportunity to our students and our families.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Hi, everybody. At the elementary, the first thing I want to do is start out by thanking Nick Hill. As you heard Mr. Caprio allude to, there was a technology glitch with the CBT on both day 1 and day 2. And both Caroline and I credit Nick with keeping us calm, giving us all the current information that was coming out from the company that was in charge of that. And, we were fortunate in that we were able to complete the test on both days. I think we were one of the very few districts that did that. So we're very proud of that, but a big thank you to Nick Hill for that. So thank you, Nick. Also, to celebrate, we had over 97% participation in the ELA state assessment, which is, I believe it's about 2.5% higher than we had last year, which was a region leader. So we anticipate being up in the region lead with that again. Next week, as Mr. Caprio alluded to, we hope there's no more glitches with the CBT. We have the math on the 28th and 29th, and then in early May, on May 8th, we have the science test. But I do want to say that as far as the participation rate goes, I think it's a testament to both the district and our staff, because there's trust that comes in play with that. And I think it's the trust that plays a key role in having their students participate in the state assessments with us. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to our staff for creating that environment. Caroline, you want to share some dates?
Sure. May and June are crazy in the elementary, but lots of fun. On May 9th, our 4th grade, this is something we did last year, but our 4th graders are going to the reservation for a tour. Last year, 4th and 5th grade went. This year, it's 4th grade. They go to the lacrosse box. They go on like a plant walk to learn about different plants on the territory. And they go on a bus tour of the territory, similar to the one that you all went on, to learn about the reservation. So that's exciting. May 16th, we have our fun run and whole school Zumba. For any of you that would like to participate, you're more than welcome. Or lead it. We need some Zumba leaders. We also have May 22nd, the 21st, a glow lunch where we turn all the lights off in the cafeteria and celebrate all the exciting things that go on with the kids wear neon, and we have all sorts of lights and excitement. June 4th is our outdoor day. June 11th is our reading carnival, and June 13th is our homegrown assembly. And then we have our awards assembly at the end of the year and kindergarten and pre-K graduation as well. So lots of things happening in the elementary.
Just wanted to say hats off to the teachers who really get into Glow Week at the elementary school. Like, they go all out. There's lights and special pens and markers, and it's quite impressive.
Yes, 4th grade does it to get ready for the math assessment. It's a very fun way of getting ready. So it's very exciting. Are you guys gonna send that calendar home like you did last year with all
Yes.
those things?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the kind words. That's very nice of you. I was going to compliment you for doing such a great job. Honestly, everybody involved with the New York State testing deserves a round of applause. And I'm going to start with the students because there's some certain ways you can handle a situation like that. The students were so great. And all the teachers were so patient and just like went with it. You would think that that would have negatively impacted the experience, but I think like all the teachers and students sort of reported, it was nice to like have a minute to settle in, and we kind of joked around. Like I was in the room and I was like, "Didn't you know that the first part of your test was learning patience and tenacity?" So it was pretty good. But you know, we just kind of went with it, took the information as it came. We had a plan. We just kind of kept everybody informed. And, you know, if it didn't work by a certain time, we would have had to make an adjustment. And luckily, you know, we just kept at it and we were able to make our testing work. But just to give you a little bit more background on what actually happened, the students were just unable to log in the first place. They didn't really give us a full explanation of why that happened, but they just weren't able to get in. It took a while. The first day it took till about 9:30 to get in, and the second day a little after that, maybe 9:45 or so. And we were fortunate enough to be able to keep with it and have our students test. And I think overall it showed that you know, just everybody involved was just willing to work together, and it turned out really not as you would have expected. We definitely want that to go a little more smoothly when the next round comes up, but it worked out. So hats off to Todd and Caroline and all the teachers and the students in that building. It was just, it was great to see everybody work together. So I do want to mention, I'll give a more in-depth presentation on this, but I do want to keep you updated that we are in the process of a website migration. You may remember that our current provider, which is Blackboard, was purchased by Finalsite, which sort of necessitated this transition to a new provider. We've had our kickoff. We're actually expecting our content to migrate over to the new site next week. And our current site will remain active until we're ready to transition into it, but we'll actually be able to start working in the new site after next week. In addition to that, we have a family app that will be available in the Apple and Android store. That will feature links to commonly visited pages on the website, apps and different things, calendars, menus, you know, quick access to the parent portal, that type of thing. It'll also house communication from our mass communication systems, and we even hope that someday it will allow teacher to parent-to-teacher communication, kind of like the Remind app does. But ultimately, the goal is to kind of put everything in one spot for everybody, so you don't have to go to, you know, several different places to get your information. The other nice thing is, you know, the website will provide a nice fresh look, improved mobile experience. Many people are consuming our information on their phones, so that should be a little more mobile friendly, and it'll greatly improve our ADA compliance, which is important, obviously. The last thing I want to update you on is our Say Something anonymous reporting system is now active. All students from grades 4 through 12 had been trained prior to the spring break, but we wanted to have time for that training to go through and have everybody come back and launch it the right way where everybody's here and, you know, maybe not out of town. So everything's active. It's on the website. We have posters that are going up around the buildings to kind of remind students about that, as well as an email reminder reminding them where to find it on the website. So that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. So this Thursday, we have Susan Connors, the president of the Tourette Association of America for our Western New York region, coming in to do some professional development with our high school teachers as it relates to students who may have a diagnosis of Tourette syndrome or tic disorder. On May 5th, we have BOCES coming in to do transition professional development. The state does assign indicators for special education every single school year. This year, we're focusing on timely evaluations for preschool students.
students. So I anticipate that following the rotation during the 26-27 school year, we'll be audited on transition in the IEP. So we're starting that professional development now and really focusing on making sure our verbiage and our IEPs are compliant next school year. And then we're starting the process for CPSE to CSE transition. We have approximately 25 students that we will be determining eligibility for. And I would like to give a shout out to our related services and kindergarten team as well as elementary administration. It really is a tedious process, but we want to make sure that we're doing it right and that we have students who are eligible in the right program and the supports in place to start the school year next year. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. 3 departments are running well. It's all hands on deck in all 3 departments. We have vacancies in all 3, so if you know anybody looking for part-time employment, send them our way. We can hook them up in whatever area of interest they might have. Transportation, we're headed into the spring sports season, which the maintenance department as well as transportation, that's just such a crunch of a season. The spring sports teams just have to squeeze it all in a very short period of time. We are also approaching field trips and all that goes along with the end of the year celebrations. So like I said, all hands on deck, just making everything happen across the board, supporting the departments and people as best as we can. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
All right, moving on then. Agenda item number 7, committee reports. Recreation Board, Ms. K, Mr. Cena.
We had a meeting last month. The meeting that was supposed to be this Thursday was postponed, so at this time there is no update.
Okay. ECASB delegate, Ms. Kafka, Mr. Cena.
Nothing to report. I believe the final meeting for the year is on the 1st.
ECASB legislative, Ms. Pidgeotto and myself.
No report.
Yeah, no report. We did have our last meeting last month, so that will be the wrap up for this year. Given, as Mr. Kowalski had indicated, the current situation with the budget, ECASB started last year doing, they were alternating breakfasts and dinners like a beginning of the year and end of year. So as a result, with everything going on, they canceled this year's wrap up since they're still in session and things are going on. But it will be something that I know ECASB is looking at, trying to do some alternative other items to go through and do. The only other item I'd add to that is from our previous Capitol Conference. I know in conversation with one of the assembly men, I'm going to try and put together a letter that I'd like to send back out to him. He was very receptive of the possibility of proposing legislation for a special education reserve fund. And as we've gone through the budgetary process, we've seen how, from year to year, it's a very random number, whether you have a student move in or a student move out of the district. It can have a very big swing on your budget. So therefore, his spouse happens to be a special education teacher in Amherst. So as a result, he's very aware of what those costs and what those things are associated with. So I will share the letter with you prior to, but I intend on I'd like to send that out to him and also to other legislators in our area to try and see if we can get that motion, get our advocacy in action. So, but more will follow with that. ECASB Budget and Finance, Mr. Kenley?
No report.
No report. Indigenous Committee, Ms. Kafka?
No report. We have our next meeting tomorrow.
Next meeting. Very good. WNED BPO, Ms. Pidgeotto?
No report. We will meet next month for both.
For both, okay. Policy Advisory Committee, Ms. K.
All right, I have plenty. We reviewed a lot of policies, so we are doing like about 15 policies in a meeting, but that's because there's very few changes. We're just reviewing the BOCES and comparing it to ours, so a lot of the BOCES language is law that we just strictly are following, and very minimal language changes. But there are 3 that I did want to bring up. One of them was the committees of the board. This policy had a couple of changes. We wanted to reword to make the process more clear. So there was two committees on there, the audit committee and the visitation committees. We're already practicing those requirements, and we're just changing the language to reflect those current practices. It does say that we have an audit committee and visitation committee, but like I said, we're doing what the intentions of those committees are in a different way, so we're just changing the language for those. And then the other two that I wanted to make mention of is we have a policy, well, actually a bylaw. It's called the Board of Education Code of Conduct. And that one, we do not have a BOCES one, so we're not required to have it, but we do have it, so we just wanted to review to see if we still want to continue with it. So that one, I'll just briefly give some information on that. It's the code of conduct of the board, so you know how the board should operate. But that's something that could also be put in the onboarding handbook. So I don't know if there's some discussion if we want to continue having that as a bylaw or just put that in our handbook.
There was some conversation around that it might be a good topic to discuss during our Board of Education retreat over the summertime and really take a look at that information and see if it reflects the work that we're doing or if it hasn't been updated in a bit. So if there's additional things that we would like to add based on the work that the board is doing now.
I know, if I remember correctly, I believe it was something that we would identify with during our reorganizational meeting and then reapprove it on a calendar basis. And again, I think I like the fact that we have something in there, just from the standpoint that it clearly defines and, a general understanding, a consensus, because it is passed by, reviewed by the board and then approved by the board at reorganization. So whether your board remains the same or the composition changes based off of elections, it's just a recognition of saying, to the community, to administration, to the students, this is what we expect from the board, and this is the expectations of the board to the community and those that they represent. So I think it's very valid. I think we can take a look at it and have a conversation about it. And even if it isn't something that over the course of the summer, it doesn't hit at the time that we approve it during the reorganization, we can have the conversation over the summer and then just amend and approve it at a later date after revision. So, but
Okay, sounds great.
I think that's a good idea.
And then just the other one that we've been looking at is the board members nomination election, and that's just the student member that we just, I know we're going to discuss in board discussion today about how to elect that student board member. So that's the other one that's just kind of being tabled until we work that part out.
Okay. I would like to thank, both yourself, Ms. Kay, and I know Mr. Allen, when he served on the committee as well. The Policy Action Committee was something that was, established in the last year, 2 years, with the intent of reviewing, to do the due diligence of the board in reviewing all of our policies over the course of a period of time so that they constantly are reviewed, refreshed. And as we've seen, very much in what you have here, whether it be, slight changes to the verbiage because of laws that have changed, maybe it's things where something has become antiquated and has been removed, or a new policy has superseded it. Again, it's nice to see that this has been an ongoing process over the course of the year. I know the amount of work that you and the rest of the board has taken on for that, so I want to thank you for that.
It's enjoyable. And we were just saying, it's actually like a professional development. It really is, because it forces you to read through all the policies, refamiliarize yourself with them, and just have that recall then on the tip of your fingers. Like, oh, we just reviewed that.
Or yeah, we were laughing the other day, like we didn't know this one existed.
Well, and I think that's the justification there too, is because a lot of times you get lost and it gets lost in the shuffle. And in some cases, I know, you know, in the course of the time that I spent on the board, there have been policies that have been not enacted, policies that have been utilized because a condition or a situation has evolved or come to the boards for discussion and review, and that policy has never fully been implemented, or we've never needed to utilize it to the full extent. And therefore, you know, if you don't go through and review those things or utilize them, then you don't know how well they are applicable, where you can make changes, how you can, you know, make suggestions and make them work so that they work. So again, I truly appreciate the fact that that this has gone underhand and what we've done to this point. So thank you. Capital improvement, capital project, Ms. Pidgeotto and myself.
We will be meeting on Thursday, so no report until next meeting.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, Ms. Kafka, Ms. Pidgeotto.
No report. We will be meeting on Monday.
Very well, moving on to agenda item number 8, superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. Just wanted to recognize a couple of groups and individuals in my superintendent's report tonight. First, I wanted to recognize Akron High School's concert band, orchestra, varsity chorale for their accomplishments and an amazing trip to Washington, D.C. on April 3rd through the 6th. They went to the Heritage Music Festival and competition. Also wanted to recognize the teachers, Ms. Pitts, Mr. Bardo, Ms. Sandville, Ms. Komazinski, and our Akron music parents for working very, very hard to put this trip together for over 100 students. It was over a year in the making, a great deal of research and planning, and just so incredibly appreciative. Our students performed beautifully. They earned gold in all categories, and the band and orchestra took home top combined instrumental awards. The trip also included master classes, sightseeing, a show at Ford's Theater, red carpet gala event to wrap it up. And also special recognition goes out to Whitley Koopman, a junior who won the prestigious Ovation Award. So congratulations. And rather than me just talk about it, Mrs. Sandville put together a very short video for you just to share some of the experiences that our students participated in. This is totally my fault because I gave this to Mike very last minute. And it can be a visual experience. And we really don't need music, Mike. It's just kind of background. You can just kind of see all the different sites that the kids were able to go to and participate in. So truly, they had some pretty amazing experiences that they will definitely never forget. And they represented Akron with a tremendous amount of pride. So congratulations to our music department. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's about that technology teaching perseverance and patience.
Yes,
right?
yes, right there. Patience with the superintendent for giving you the presentation last minute. Also wanted to recognize Ms. Hawkins, who's our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, who is not here this evening, as well as all of the administrators and teachers who participated in the presentations for our April 4th Superintendent's Conference Day. We received tremendous amount of positive feedback from our faculty and staff. Thank you to all of our faculty and staff for participating. The day was filled with great opportunities for our teachers, some team building, opportunities to collaborate. Wide range of topics were covered, including trauma-informed practices, literacy instruction with science of reading, neurodiversity, AI integration, writing instruction, cross-grade collaboration, Indigenous perspectives, as well as tours of the Tonawanda Seneca Nation, updates on our strategic planning process. And once again, the feedback was extremely positive, and I know it was a tremendous amount of hard work for Danielle, but for all of our admin who participated and presented on that day, just wanted to express our appreciation to you as well. And that is all I have.
All right. I just want to kind of piggyback just along the superintendent's report from the standpoint of as a former AMP parent that had traveled with both of my kids to many of the different things that those band music trips meant. I know that they are lifelong memories, and after the couple of years of COVID and getting out of that, I'm glad to see that those opportunities are back, especially an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and to participate in all of that and all the surroundings. So it's great to see. With that, moving on, agenda item number 9, board policy and development. These are many of the policies that Ms. Kay helped with here. The recommended action is that the Akron Central School Board of Education approves and revises policies content item 9J through 9R.
Moved.
Second.
Moved Mr. Pidgeotto, seconded Mr. Kenline. Any questions or board discussion? The motion passes. Moving on, agenda item number 10, personnel. It is the recommended action that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve personnel items consent item 10A through 10L.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Kay.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Sina. Any questions or board discussion? And that motion passes. Agenda item number 11, district items. It is the recommended action that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve district items consent items 11A through 11R.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Pidgeotto.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Kenline. Any questions or board discussion? And that motion passes. Agenda item 12, financial reports. It is the recommended action the Akron Central School Board of Education approve the financial reports for February and March of 2025 as submitted by District Treasurer Susan Brewer.
Moved.
Moved, Mr. Kenline.
Second.
Second, Ms. Pidgeotto. That agenda item passes. Agenda item 13, special education. The recommended action is that the Akron Central School Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby approve special education items, consent items 13A and 13B.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Kay.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Kenline. That motion passes. Moving on, agenda item number 14, which is board discussion. First item on there is the new Board of Education member handbook, mentoring and policy 2110.
So we shared a draft with the Board of Education of a possible handbook that Ms. James and I have been working on to support new board members to Akron. We wanted to share a copy of that with the Board of Education and seek if there's any revisions the board would like to see on that handbook, or if any feedback for us. One of the things that is identified as a possibility in the handbook is more of a formalized mentoring program for new board members. I know this is something that the board has done informally, but this would allow a brand new board member to be assigned or connected with a more experienced board member if they have questions that they don't want to ask the entire group about process procedure. So we wanted to receive the board's feedback on that, as well as we mentioned earlier, policy 2110 references a visitation committee. And during the spirit, or during our policy advisory committee meetings, the spirit of visiting the buildings during different events and activities is definitely in place. Just didn't know if there was any interest in formalizing a facilities tour on a regular basis, or formalizing that process at all. So just wanted to receive some board feedback on that.
I read through the draft this afternoon. I think it's a great idea as far as the mentoring goes. I know that when I came on as a new board member, it was very confusing. So that would have been, extremely helpful to have had that experience. I'm fully supportive of that. I think that's a great thing to implement, as well as the visitation committees. I think that would be good to bring back on a more formal basis.
My thought, I know with the visitation, I think the thing, I don't know if anything necessarily formal. I know the understanding is that at any point in time, if a member wants to, at the request, wants to visit any one particular building or see something specific, within the district, then it's just a matter of a communication, either, to the board president or to the superintendent, just so that the superintendent can give notification and kind of help facilitate the arrangements that are necessary for that. I think maybe formalizing something, so at least, once per annual, the board has some sort of opportunity, and very much along the lines of when we try and do retreats and that, if there's something specific that we're looking at, or we see that may be coming up in the next year, obviously we can tailor that visitation to kind of match what it is that we want to see.
I was thinking it might be beneficial specific to facilities as well. I know Josh is here today. Our facilities team works very hard to keep our building in great condition. It might be a nice opportunity, even during the retreat, to take a tour of the individual buildings, see the work that's being done over the summer, firsthand get to see some of the behind the scenes related to the work of the capital improvement project and such.
I think some other districts would, in talking to, other board members across ECASB, they assign liaisons to each of the buildings. And I don't know how they work it from there on out, but I think that might be something to explore further. I also think that sounds a little bit better than a visitation. It's a little more friendly, food for thought. But that might be something to look into a little further too and discuss.
Absolutely.
I do like the idea of a liaison to a building.
Yeah.
That way, there's a little bit more communication. There's a little bit more of a
Cohesive.
building a relationship between the two, and then that obviously the liaison can report back and then kind of be the go-between between the two. So I do like that idea, and I agree. I do remember hearing that from a couple of other districts as that they utilize that. Now, granted, we're a little bit of a different situation that we got one campus,
together.
but you know, it does make sense. So I don't think it's too big of a thing. But I also think I'm in agreement with the superintendent from the standpoint that to actually see the physical spaces and to see the facilities in that sort of understanding, especially between going through the capital improvement, just going through the the building condition survey. Also, as was presented earlier, looking for a long-term solution and trying to get into a cyclical cycle for a capital outlay on a regular basis to try and address these things that are either been festering or maybe towards the end of service life. I think that's, to help establish that long-term plan, if that's truly where we want to go with everything. I think it would be beneficial. So I'm
I also
thinking
think
good
the
things.
PTA too would be another, another place that we have a gap. There's not a whole lot of collaboration there, and that might be helpful if we had someone serving as a liaison to the PTA as well.
Maybe during a retreat to kind of look at all those committees and find out what we need to add or what we need to remove. That would be another topic to look at.
I agree.
It's part of the reorg.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a good retreat question. I know from the standpoint that I know we're going to be having a conversation here in a moment in regards to that the student representative, and part of it is trying to. I know with the student representative, it's something the board had explored previously, and part of the thing is trying to get ourselves, trying to have a better understanding of the district in entirety and its diversity versus just specific avenues. So I think anything we can do from a board's perspective to try and get a little bit more engagement and have that interaction, I think the better off we are in understanding what the needs and goals of both admin, teachers, and students are. To better facilitate those. So.
If there's any other feedback on that handbook, please feel free to share it with me, and we'll continue to revise.
Yep. With that, the next item on there was on our agenda for discussion was in regards to the student representative. I don't know if you want to.
Yep, and actually I'm gonna, if Mr. D, if you wouldn't mind joining us for the conversation. Myself, Mr. D, Mr. Bukowski, we received a really nicely written email from Ella Liss on behalf of herself and Student Council, thanking the board and myself for the opportunity to speak at our board meeting, but also to identify some additional suggestions for how those individual students are selected to be board members. And I know Mr. D had additional conversations, so if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, I mean, so when we first presented, it really was an opportunity, I think, for our student government to have an opportunity to serve on the board. Our goal really is to provide those students opportunities to lead and to advocate for themselves and for their classmates. So utilizing student government made sense and makes sense for those leaders that want to put themselves out there and be a part of that. The recommendation from one of the students was, after further thought, was maybe have even more of a vetting process where the adults in the building would then, after student government would be solidified, have our staff members in the building maybe vet down a few candidates that they would feel would be appropriate for the board, seeing that they see the students in a different light than just the peers do. That made sense, and it does make sense, and maybe even going one step further and having the board ultimately, interview students or make a final determination if it may be one student or multiple students that you would want to serve on the board. So it was a thoughtful response and an idea that we didn't really think about, but it does make sense. So that was really something that we wanted to
To
obviously
quote
share.
Ella, she wrote that it's important to have a diverse group of individuals, so that showing that all student perspectives are valued. Just thought it was very insightful, the email message that she sent to us.
I like the idea of having a student board member, first of all, that's there on a more regular basis. I know the point was made that some of these students are involved in so many activities they can't regularly attend, but I'd also like to see some other kids that aren't kind of the same kids in student government and a different, kind of mix of kids. I think that would be nice to consider some of the other kiddos that are out there.
I agree with that.
Are we talking about implementing this at the beginning of next school year?
Yep, July. So almost, if what I'm hearing is maybe almost create like a job description to share what the roles and responsibilities and what the commitment would look like, that we could potentially share with the student body, and those that might be interested could apply for the position, and whether there's a level of vetting at the building level or those individuals interview with the board would also be an option.
I mean, there is an eclectic student body representative of all the classes as well as the student council, so that there is really a diverse student group just in that pool. And, to vet it down even more, I think would be appropriate. And we also, throughout the year have presentations with students and clubs coming up here that are giving voice to what their perspective is as well. So we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for the board to make that determination, but ultimately, you would have to feel what you're comfortable with, what's, going to be quick because we got to put it in place for the start of next year. So, and the students on their application packets was the expectation for all of them that they knew that they might be a part of the board, and that responsibility would have to be for them to serve at some point as an ex officio board member. So that was all students who did apply for that were in the know of that possible expectation.
Yeah, I guess ultimately, because it is the first time that we're really kind of coming to this, I know a lot of the conversation that we've had today and previously, and then even prior to this, before it was, essentially mandated that this is going to happen. I guess what I would like to gather from the board between, I would say, tonight's meeting and our next meeting, and I can send out a reminder for sure, is just from the standpoint that if you have something in mind of a process, what that process might be and what might be the best way to go through and do it. I think there's a lot of pros and cons that we've heard both from admin, from students, from the student government that's presented, and again, just kind of knowing what we currently are utilizing and what might be the best means or methods to have that person or persons, if that's the case as well. I think that was a great point from the student's perspective too, to have two people, so that if one was unable to attend, then you had somebody as a fallback. So there was always one representative that was able to be there as maybe a primary and an alternate. But ultimately, I think what we need to do is, from the board side, is I'll send out a notification to each of you and just ask for your input so that we can kind of finalize something for our next meeting. Just that way we can get something implemented. If there's any sort of, whether it be interviewing applications or alternate things, we can get those in place prior to the end of this year so that we're ready to roll come next year.
I know it's too late this year, obviously, but for the full experience, and I think that if we considered an election campaign type thing for students to do, just to mirror kind of what we do informally, might be a good thing to consider.
Yeah, and and again, the whole idea with this too is what was nice at least from the standpoint of the state. All the state said is that we need to have the representative on our board. What the state did not do is tell you how, what, and who you have to do it. So it's something that we can find. If we find that something that we have utilized or we put into place doesn't seem to be working, we can make changes on an annual basis as to whether it be the selection process, the number of participants, how this all looks is going to be relative to us. So
This is this whole issue of the student representation on the board is, at least from what I've seen, going to be a hot topic at the annual leadership conference this summer in Albany.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody got the card announcing the dates. So if we have anybody going to that conference, it definitely would be something that we could bring back and share with the rest of the board.
And if the board would like, Mr. D and I can put together some recommendations or some different possibilities to choose from too for that process. I know, Steve, you've put a lot of work into it already, so I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Next item there for board discussion is just from the comments in regards to board goals. I know we're coming up towards the end of this year. What I will do also is to share what our 3 goals were at the beginning of the year, and ask for your feedback and input as to what you thought we've done. Likewise, input from the superintendent as to, you know, how we've made strides towards those particular goals, but also trying to open up the floor to the board in regards to additional goals that we may be looking for to work towards setting those goals, again, probably 2 to 3 goals for the next school year. That way, as we roll into the end of this school year and into reorganization and then the next school year, that we can start to work on establishing those goals prior to the start of the year would be my hope. So again, that gives the direction to the superintendent that can then formalize what those, you know, how those goals could be implemented or reached, and then work with administration on down to see that they come to fruition. That was one. The other aspect of this, which from the board's perspective, is you may have seen an email or that we have 2 other things that we need to do before the end of the year, and that would be, number 1 is the superintendent's evaluation. So that should be coming online here shortly. We will get a notification out to you so that we'll be able to get those going. And then the secondary portion too is to do a board self-evaluation. I know we did this last year for the first time, so we'll do it again this year, again, to try and identify what we feel as a board our strengths are, what our weaknesses or deficiencies are, and therefore we can organize maybe some retreats and some professional development into either encapsulating those or trying to make alterations to better service our community and our students with meeting our own evaluation and expectations.
Super Eval is live. Just make sure that you're able to log in, and if you have any struggles logging in, please let us know and we can help you.
Okay. Is there any other items in regards to board discussion or? Okay. School board correspondence. Thursday, May 1st, ECASB Delegate Assembly at Erie and BOCES, 6:30 p.m. Spring School Law Conference is Thursday, May 8th at the Genesee Valley Club in Rochester, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Please register with Mrs. James by April 30th. Upcoming dates, Tuesday, May 13th is the budget hearing in the auditorium beginning at 7 p.m. And immediately following that, it will be the next Board of Education regular business meeting here in the cafeteria. With that, agenda item 17, executive session. We do have a need to go into executive session, so the recommended action is a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual.
Moved.
Moved, Ms. Pidgeotto.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kenloy. And the motion passes. Nobody abstained. And we are into executive session at 8:19. We do not have an intent to conduct any business following coming out of executive session. We thank everybody that presented, everybody in attendance, both online or in person. As always, if any questions, please contact myself or the superintendent. Thank you.